All right, this is part one. I took like 1,000 photos of my trip to Dinan, France. So I left Ithaca Airport, about a 25-minute drive from where I live, my small town in central New York. That's me waiting in the Ithaca Airport to get on my flight. I'm excited. I haven't been anywhere in years. That's my airplane. It's going to take me to JFK Airport in New York City. That's me sitting, looking out the window. This is my favorite part, taking off, leaving Ithaca, New York. I never could understand why I'm the only one looking out the window like a little kid. I've flown so many times, especially in the Army, but I really like taking off and really feel the power, acceleration. Yeah, nobody's even interested. Like they do this every day or something. I think they're afraid. I put my faith in God when I travel. There it is. Airborne.
Yeah, I'm airborne.
All right. So that's me leaving Ithaca, New York, close to my hometown. That's looking out the window at JFK Airport, below somewhere, the Atlantic Ocean. Whew. JFK is big. This Moravian hasn't seen so many people in many years. I gotta go to B25 to get to Paris. Since the late 90s, so this was the first time I've traveled internationally in quite a few years. All right, that's in Paris Airport. The sign says basically if you harass the airport workers, you can get 6 months in jail and a €500 fine. Pretty strict over there with their laws. All right, that's Paris. I started snapping pictures. I had to go from the airport to the train station to catch a train to where I was headed. Just street scenes, cafes, which I loved. Espresso, cheese, bread, wine, beer, whatever you want. I loved the cafes, and Paris is all about cafes, and so was the place I was at. In fact, everywhere was there. Meat prices I thought was interesting. It's fairly expensive. Looks like meat. Most of the food wasn't so expensive. Depends upon where you're at. Just some buildings in Paris. That's Emperor Charlemagne in Paris statue, who was from Aachen, Germany. But Germany and France both kind of claim Charlemagne as theirs. That's Notre Dame. There were tents there because they were working on it, so I just took the top part. I think that was a giant, like a Supreme Court, legal building, administrative. I think. If you see those flags like that, it usually means that's a police station, or I think it's pronounced gendarmes, I'm not sure. That's the River Seine, which runs through Paris. Just a random street scene in Paris. Another shot of the River Seine, Seine. Street scene in Paris. 11 million people there. It's a giant city. A lot to explore. My first cup of cafe espresso. Many more of those will be to follow. I drank those everywhere I went. Same picture I took. I had over 1,000 pictures to sort through. So it's a lot of work. This is just part one. Another street scene in Paris, which I thought was really intriguing, with all the shops and alleyways and a lot there to explore. That's the train station in Paris. I was going to catch the train to Rennes, And there's police. There's police presence and soldiers at these places for terrorist threats. And this is just out the window leaving Paris, the countryside. Not much to see. It's pretty flat there. Other places closer to where I was headed was pretty picturesque with hills and streams, old houses and ponds, country matters. But this is what you see. That's headed west out of Paris going to Brittany. And I went from Paris to Rennes, R-E-N-N-E-S, from Rennes to Dinan, which was my destination. If I had to do it again, I would go from Paris to St. Malo, from St. Malo to Dinan, because the train and bus station St. Malo is much nicer. This is coming into Rennes on the train, which is a very fast train, but here it's slowing down. Kind of a mixture of old and new architecture, which I found to be quite common, at least in Brittany, where I was traveled through. The city centers are usually really old, as you'd expect. Outside the city centers, you get a mixture of new and old. And I missed my train, and I was very lucky to catch the last bus out to Dinan, or I would have been spending the night there. That's the bus. Just took a shot of it. The buses were pretty clean. No bathrooms on these.
Hey, man.
They're very clean, actually, and cheap. In Dinan. And I met this man on the bus from Rennes to Dinan. And he was a godsend. I don't know if he was a member of the clergy. That's walking from the bus stop to where I lived, which was about a 5-minute walk, if that. Now, my place was right up on top of these stone walls, which were built in the 13th century or 12th, I think the 13th. And it's a fortress city built on a hilltop with walls like that all the way around. It's pretty cool. As this man took me and my friend Val showed us where our place was. And I saw him praying on the bus a lot. He looked to be praying. I called him brother. Thank you a lot. Thanks, brother. He spoke some English. Some artwork inside my house. I thought, I was kind of wowed by everything. This is day one. This is day one. Getting to Dinan and my place. I know a lot of these were reproductions. Maybe a couple of them weren't. But I thought this guy looked mean. He does look mean. I ventured out that night, my first night there, even though I'd been traveling forever. I couldn't believe at my age that I had the energy to do all this, but I wasn't even tired. I was really wound up. Really, I always loved stonework, always. And this place it's like I called it a stone Disney World once. It was really amazing. It's nothing but stonework. And when you get out of the old section, they still build their houses with stone. Not all of them, though. That was a statue of a man, the local hero, I can't pronounce his name, who fought the English, defended Dinan in the 13th century. I guess he was, more on him later. And I got home finally and had a beer. And that's the end of part one. So part two will be starting the next day, and I got some wonderful, really, in my opinion, great pics to share. So stay tuned for part two. I'll put it together eventually.